right?
Yeah, so I just put my phone on record.
Okay. Good.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
So we wanted to ask you a couple of questions, Terry and I. The first one is just how long have you been in education?
Um, well, I've been at my current school for 20 years.
Wow.
I was at Cambridge Rindge and Latin for about 5, and I taught in Germany for a while, but I don't know if that counts.
Teaching counts. All teaching counts.
Then altogether, probably 30 years.
That's great. That's fantastic. And what school are you currently teaching at?
The EMK Academy, it's a health careers academy. It's supposed to be for kids interested in health careers.
Oh,
You
wow.
don't have to be to go there.
It's a public school? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
If you look under BPS, it'll be under EMK Academy.
Wow. Okay. See, learn something. Great. And what subjects do you currently teach there, please?
Right now I teach psychology and a section of AP Psych.
Awesome. Great. And typically how many students are in your class and what's their makeup and in terms of ethnic, socioeconomic?
Typically there's 20 in the class.
Okay.
And that's mostly because our building is small. So my building has the 11th and 12th graders. There are more students in the 9th and 10th per class because the classrooms are bigger.
Okay.
But by the time they get to 11th and 12th,
Uh-oh. Hi,
I don't know
Mia.
what happened.
I'm using my school email and I think it timed out. I had to just re-sign in. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
All the tech excitement. I don't know how professionals do it.
I don't either. I struggle with it. And a lot of the teaching job now is around technology. They expect you have to be very savvy. Everything is done through technology.
Yeah, no, all jobs now. It's crazy. And sometimes I've worked with really young people who that's sort of their big thing. That's what they do, but they don't have a lot of teaching experience or experience with students.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe we need them to teach the rest of us, but it's there's got to be
I do have the younger teachers are always teaching me what to do. And if I have a problem, I'll just take my computer and go to a younger
Yeah,
teacher.
exactly.
Right away, they're like zip, 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 zip.
So I've also learned you can go to YouTube and type in anything in the world, how to make mashed potatoes,
Yeah, I do
to
that.
how to
Yeah.
record something, to how to put voice on a
Directions.
Google slide.
I just looked up directions on how to use one of those, the stud finder.
Oh yeah.
I had an old stud finder that I wanted to use, and I actually found the make and everything online.
Wow.
And the thing is 20 years old, and it
Awesome.
had directions on how to use it.
See, it's good for something. It's just kind of funny. Okay, I'm so sorry. You were telling me about why 11th and 12th grade had smaller classes because they're in a different building.
The 11th and 12th are in a smaller building. We're housed in this old building at Northeastern on the Fenway.
Okay.
The 10th and 11th are in a regular BPS school with the regular big classroom,
Okay.
typical old building, brick building with the big classrooms. So they're there, but we're on the other side. And it's mostly because the headmaster wants to stay affiliated with Northeastern.
I had no idea you guys were affiliated with Northeastern. That's really interesting.
Yeah, so the kids we're affiliated in a way.
Mhm.
We still, I think the school pays rent for us to be there, but we also get to use their labs, their science labs, which
Wow.
is a big plus.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, so the science classes are at Northeastern.
Gee, that's great. And Northeastern has a nursing program as well, right? So
Yeah.
the students, I don't know what other health sciences
But
they're
our
interested
kids
in.
can't get into that.
Okay, right. That's no, that's all right. We were talking about that once because I was teaching the Northeastern the Regis College nursing students the last couple of years, and they're sort of those kind of students we were talking about them taking loans and the difficulty with all that. I know I don't know what the answer is, Mia. We're working on it. So is there a lot of diversity in the classroom among the students?
Well, diversity in that they are all minority students.
Oh, wow.
They are Black and Hispanic. The Black population can be African American, or they come from different islands in the Caribbean. The Hispanic population is primarily from the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico.
Okay.
But also there'll be a few from Brazil or somewhere in Central America. And then we have a ever-growing Muslim population. And initially, we're having these first groups of a lot of kids who were born here.
Okay.
Muslim, but born here.
Okay.
So the boys, it's harder to tell, but the girls, I mean, they wear long skirts, and they don't wear a complete cover-up, but they all wear headscarves.
Okay.
And they're totally clothed.
Okay.
And so I think that's been a little bit different for us. We always had a few, but now we have a lot.
Okay.
But kids that are born here.
That's great. It gives you a different perspective than like my friends in Lexington who only teach entirely white classes with maybe 3 Chinese students who have fluent English.
Last year I had, how many Asian? I think I had 3 Asian students from China.
Okay.
And the year before I had a Vietnamese kid. Last year I didn't have a white student.
Wow.
So you have to imagine a classroom with no white student.
Okay.
Which is different than another school. But BPS tends to be very heavy minority.
Yes.
It's an exam school. So at Boston Latin, it's more of a mix. They have a really nice cultural mix where they have white students and Black students. They have a lot of Vietnamese students, a lot of Asian students, but not in the other Boston public schools.
Right. So it's interesting, we're kind of as a sideline, we're reading a lot about that. And of course, we've all kind of heard a bit. But in general, sort of people my age with young kids either left the city when the kids became in like 2nd or 3rd grade or whatever, or they stayed in the city and put their kids in exam schools, or they put them in private schools. But I don't know a lot of people who just put them in regular public. And people ask us about it continuously. Like you're always defending.
Most of the white population, if they don't get in, a lot of the white population went to a parochial school or a private school.
Oh, right. Okay. Interesting.
They can apply in the 7th grade for one of the exam schools.
Okay.
So, and then they hope to get in. If they don't get in, I think a lot of them do go to they go back to their parochial school.
Right.
But they want to get into the exam schools. They're excellent.
Sure. But you're not an exam school, right? Right. Okay. So well, that's kind of nice. Anyone who thinks they want to go into a health science can go to that school.
Well, they have to apply. I mean, all the schools and
right.
pretty much all of them, you have to request. It doesn't.
You're not guaranteed, I guess.
We're not allowed to not have any. It's all lottery.
Right.
Unless you have a sibling, and then you're a preferred lottery.
Okay. So I was in Cambridge for 10 years before Somerville, and that's how Cambridge was. And we didn't get our 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or 5th choice. Is it that hard in Boston?
I don't know anyone that didn't get 3rd, 4th, or 5th choice.
Okay.
But, I deal more with the minority population, and some of them don't even know how to make a choice.
Right.
So they're not so... I mean, if we have a lot of parents that don't speak English.
Right.
So I think it's a little bit different, but I'm sure there are a lot of people that don't get in.
Okay, yeah.
We have many more times applications and students that we can take.
Interesting. Okay. Total side note.
A lot of people choose it because it's a smaller school. It seems safer.
Right.
It's not like, some of the schools in Boston is so huge.
Right.
You just magnify all the problems.
Right. What? So I was interested in asking about the curriculum and then sort of also about how you feel the culture and beliefs and ethnicity of your students plays in the curriculum. But I'm just really open to hearing about what you have to say about anything you want to tell me about.
The curriculum, it changes somewhat. I mean, math doesn't change. The kids take physics. Physics is physics.
Okay.
I don't think that those things change. English evolves a little bit, and I think that teachers try to include more material from other cultures. There's definitely we're doing more nonfiction.
Okay.
These days, and English is also there's a big push on looking for evidence in
yes.
articles, which I think is very helpful for kids. So we have this thing called EBA. It's a debate, evidence-based,
right, assessment, maybe.
But it's big in our school.
Okay.
And we even have a debate league, and the debate league actually does really well. So we do a lot of things with articles, which is crucial right now. I'm actually preparing some the last couple of days to have to kids look at to see if they need to look further, if the evidence is solid, not just looking in one place, but looking in a variety of places because of all of the online stuff now that they take as fact.
Right.
So that's a new thing that we didn't do before. Before in English class, we just did literature and talked about it, and it was really fun. Now it's different. I mean, they still do Shakespeare every year. I think all of 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th, they do at least one Shakespeare. So they still do some classics, but it's not as much.
Okay.
They don't do much. And we have a hard time getting kids to read because it's now a population where kids don't read as much.
Yes.
Or they read quickly on the computer.
Yes.
So reading is a struggle. But I think in my school and in a lot of the Boston public schools, we have kids. I mean, people say that, they score lower than the suburbs. But we have kids coming in and out all the time of different abilities and different languages and different cultures. And that impacts a classroom enormously. And you also, I mean, if we get this thing that says, sophomores have to learn this, and this, but our sophomore class, or some of the kids are 2 and 3 years behind, then there's no way that we can do that in the class. So we're always having to sort of like modify and figure out how can we get these kids ahead, but also get these kids caught up. So the job is overwhelming.
Sounds it.
So, just at the beginning, trying to sort this out, and then you're trying to sort out the kid that's homeless, and what do you do with him because he's been living in a shelter and he can't find his English book.
Right, and that's not his biggest problem.
He deals with every day. Well, do I give him a 0 or, do I flip him a new book?
Right.
So it's...
So we've looked at the achievement gap a lot. Gloria Ladson-Billings wants to call it educational debt because she feels it's something that we owe because there's something that the white culture essentially has done to make it harder for minorities. But a lot of the literature just refers to it as the education gap, specifically just that whites and Asians are kind of across the board in the U.S. score many points higher than the Black and Hispanic population. And I guess a lot of us in the program are sort of feel like there's something we can help do about that. Do you have any thoughts, because you've had so much experience with sort of...
Well, I mean, it is true that they score lower, and they're going to continue scoring lower if something isn't done. They don't have the advantages. You know how if your kids go to camp, they learn new vocabulary?
Yes.
They read.
Right.
I mean, I have kids their house has no books, or their apartment, or their project, wherever they live. There are no books there.
Right.
They don't read as a population. They don't have time, is one of the things. They consider that a luxury that they're not able to do. They don't go sailing. They don't go skiing. They don't do any of those things that would open up your world, open up your vocabulary. I can ask them simple things that you think, oh my God, a moron, I'm assuming a moron would know this. I don't do that anymore, assume that. But they don't have a clue.
Right, right.
They are just like, it's never been in their world. It's not
Right,
part of
right.
their schema at all. So I think that that's the problem. How do you get these kids to go to a camp or to go? I mean, you have to expand them. I had a girl in Cambridge, freshman year in Cambridge. So you think Cambridge Rindge and Latin, right?
Right, very famous.
Up, right?
Yep.
They're all cool people over in Cambridge. And I was doing this field trip, and all we were doing is going to Harvard Square. And so I said, well, you guys, you can meet me there. I'm going to a museum. You can meet. And one of the girls says, well, I don't know how to get to Harvard Square. She lived in Central Square in the projects. She was a freshman in high school.
Wow.
She didn't know how to get to Harvard Square.
Wow.
And I said, what do you mean? You just walk up the street.
Right, right, right.
She said, no, but I've never been to Harvard Square. That's not somewhere we go.
Oh.
We don't go to Harvard Square. No one in my family's ever been to Harvard Square. They just
Wow.
think it is this affluent, Harvard white enclave that they're not a part of.
Right.
So there's there are barriers people don't realize exist. And I think that's a good example of a barrier that this girl grew up with.
No, that's a great example. Thank you.
Not thinking she could not go to Harvard Square.
Right, right, right. Wow.
Didn't know the way.
So sometimes I wonder if a way to fix this education achievement gap is to come at it not through education, what you're talking about, right? Like access to opportunities and to even parenting classes and to free books and to camps and to exposure to activities that give you vocabulary and
exposure to other things. They need, I think that some of the cultures too, they protect the kids by keeping them in a place because it's not safe. The world isn't safe.
Right.
They're afraid, and a lot of immigrant populations are afraid. And I have kids that are illegal.
Sure.
So they're afraid.
Right.
They're not going to go anywhere.
Right.
And when they get to be seniors, they can't go anywhere because they don't have, they need a social security number. I have kids that got into college that couldn't go. They can't go because they're illegal.
Right.
They can't get a scholarship because they're illegal. So they're X'd.
Mia, what are we going to do?
One kid is brilliant. He gets into UMass Amherst was his dream. So he works for that all his life. I want to go to nice state school. And then he doesn't even have a green card. He can't go. So it's a whole different world. When I was in Cambridge, I thought I was working at an inner city school. And that's what I thought. I thought, well, I'm really down with, doing all this stuff. And then I went to Boston, and it's like, it's night and day.
Yeah.
I mean, it is you're really dealing with a population worn down by poverty, neglect, racial inequities, just a million things. So when you try to bring a group in front of you and teach them,
right,
let's look at whatever. And, it's just hard for them to focus and think about that. And it's not in their life.
Right.
So,
is there anything we can do curriculum-wise that strikes you that would help?
Well, that seems like they're always doing new things curriculum-wise.
I know.
Let's do this. Oh, that's not working. Let's do this. Oh, no, that's a failure too. So they keep changing. I've been there long enough to see these things that spiral through.
Yeah.
And then they try to do all of these things through education when I think they need to do it. It's bigger than just
I think so too.
So what happens is the education system is dumped with everything. It's a whole life. Everything around them.
Right.
And especially now, I think there's more racism and strange things happening now than there were 20 years ago.
No, I think so too. And more sort of segregation. We were looking at a lot of statistics about the segregation now compared to when there were Jim Crow laws. And now, in theory, you can go anywhere, but everyone in the city moves to Lexington and Arlington and Belmont, and you sort of end up with this segregation that's stronger than it was when they were really enforcing it.
The kids I work with definitely feel segregated.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. And then you've got kids from all different cultures. And I think that, I mean, the schools are trying to be culturally sensitive, but I don't think they really get it because it's such a deep thing. And they still do these standardized tests.
I know.
That don't measure intelligence.
I
have kids that are really capable, but they just haven't had the exposure.
Right.
Their brain hasn't gone there.
Right.
To soak in that other stuff. But they could if they got that chance. So I think those programs, like, you know, they have Upward Bound programs and there's educational programs but they don't, not everybody can be in them.
Right.
The kids that are in those programs do better in school. I worked at the Upward Bound program at BU for years. And those kids get a little heads up in the summer, and then they follow them through the year. But that little boost,
right,
those students all do better. And they're all minority students.
Okay.
But they need that because they're not getting that anywhere else, and they're not living in a community that has that.
Right, right. Well, I know. Thank you so much. Really, it's it makes complete sense, everything you're saying, and it's really nice to hear it from someone who's living it as opposed to just reading it. And you made me want to go into Boston instead of Somerville Public Schools.
I mean, it's much different.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's really...
I want to visit Boston just for the heck of it. I mean, go over to, like, that South Boston High, or go to, I mean, they're like Brighton High.
Mm-hmm.
You'll walk in there, it's a whole different scenario.
Yeah. Goodness. I just have one more quick question. So the curriculum that they've kind of moved through with you guys, does it get kind of imposed on you? Like, is the school deciding the curriculum, or is it more departmental, or do you have much choice?
Yeah, my school I think that as far as English is, mostly you have a choice. And that maybe you have to do a Shakespeare book, but you have a choice with what you do. I mean, you can't do something that was done in the 9th grade. If you're
right.
in 12th grade, there are certain plays especially that are targeted for certain years. So you follow that kind of thing. But a lot of the stuff that you bring in, you're just expected to bring in. You don't get a curriculum handed to you.
Okay.
And this is what you need to do.
Right.
The same in history. I mean, there's some leeway with what they do. So they're doing more things now, which I think is probably good for the time. They have to hit some of the things that are happening now.
Right,
right. Have to know what's going on now. So those things change a little bit. I think that science probably changes too, because I would think they have to bring in newer things, and there's always new discoveries. And math, to me, math is always math, but a math teacher might say differently.
So when I go online and look at Massachusetts frameworks, and it says this is everything that gets covered in 11th or 12th grade English.
Yeah, then that's probably not happening. Not at my school.
Okay. I don't think, not at my kids' school either. Nowhere I've seen.
You've got kids coming in that are at the 8th or 9th grade.
Right.
So you are not going to be teaching them 11th and 12th grade frameworks, although some kids in your class you will be.
Right.
It really is a constant reorganizing and trying to sort out in your head. And it's overwhelming. But the frameworks are good if you could stick. I mean, it'd be fine.
That's what I would, yeah.
Easy peasy. Okay, what's next on the frameworks? We'll do that today.
Right.
I could teach that, but it's not a reality for some of the kids. I mean, we have special ed kids, we have ELL kids, all mixed in there. What are you going to do? I mean, you have to be very adaptable.
Right. So are you teaching English this year as well?
No, but I'm
sometimes you do.
English teacher.
Yeah.
So I taught English for years.
You've got lots of experience.
And I morphed into psych because I had an elective, psychology elective that got very popular, and then it kept being we would add a section, and then I would go down a section of English.
Oh, right.
And what happened was they had to either X psychology or X me as an English teacher and get another English teacher. So my headmaster, actually, I told her I thought the kids got more out of psych. I mean, they're a population, any population needs ethics and psych. So it ended up that, and it's still, it's a very popular class because they're learning about themselves and how people interact. And we do a lot of we focus on social psych in the regular psych class. The AP class is very difficult because I end up with kids that are not at an AP level.
Right.
So they're not able to do the reading, especially the reading and memorizing and learning. It's all new to them.
Right.
And most of them are not capable, or they don't have the time because they're working a job after school to help support the family.
Can anyone sign up for that class?
Well, they're supposed to be. But last year I had 2 kids that one was autistic, one had an ed plan that needed extra time. I mean, it's just...
Not your average AP teaching.
So they're supposed to be, but teachers will recommend them. But we're recommending kids from a low level. And the headmaster, to her credit, always wants to give kids opportunities.
That's great.
They'll say, I don't care what they get in the exam.
Yeah, great.
It's good for them to have a college level class. And in that way, it is good because I can say, this is what you need to be doing in college. Although I have to adapt within that class because I don't want everyone to fail.
Right, of course.
And they're not capable of really doing it.
Right.
So I have to adapt, and I have to let some things go.
That sounds like the theme of everything you're doing. I have to adapt.
It is. Teachers have to do it every second of every day. It's the hardest job. But actually, I'm going through a thing right now where I'm looking forward to going back. Because I always think the kids need us.
They do, Mia.
They need their teachers. Teachers are important. And I don't know. I mean, these kids that are so out of it, I mean, they come to school and you think, gee, I mean, nobody was there making them come.
Right.
Parents are either still in bed or because they worked at night or already gone to work.
Right. No, that's one.
They come in, they lost their book, they're in their pajamas, they make it in. And I always think, well, that's a big deal.
That is a big, yeah, exactly. Right.
There's plenty, some of the kids that are the most trouble, discipline-wise, and we have kids that are really bad. But they're there every day. And I always feel like part of me is always saying, why don't you just stay home? Or I'll tell them to leave the classroom and they won't leave.
Oh.
You need to leave. Walk up and down the hallway. You need to give me a breather. And then you can come back. I'm not leaving. You leave. It gets crazy.
Well, thank you for teaching them. Do they tell you thank you a lot at your job? I hope so.
Mostly after. Yeah, they do. And mostly it's after they graduate that they come in and say that, oh, you were really good.
Well, thank you so much, Mia. It's so interesting hearing your experience. I really, really, really appreciate it. Thank you for your time. I hope everything went okay yesterday. I know. So crazy. I know it's a lot to kind of squeeze us in. Thank you very, very, very much. Okay. Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye. How do you get out of this?
I know. I think you just click off.